What's up, Foot Clan? Before we get today's show started, I just wanted to encourage you to come check out our fantasy football community at jointhefoot.com. Look, fantasy football is more than the score. Now, the score matters, but we're here all year long with an awesome community and a ton of amazing Foot Clan leagues that are exclusive to listeners of this show and filled with passionate, great fantasy football players that make the leagues fun. You all have those leagues that has 3 or 4 dud owners, and it ruins everything. So check out jointhefoot.com. You get extra episodes every week. You help support this independent podcast, and you get access to tons of things like the Foot Clan leagues. All right, let's get into the show.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the FantasyJocks.com studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
You guys know they're making a remake of a Disney classic.
They're remaking all of them, but yeah.
I know. Live action.
Yeah, that's what they're doing.
Do you see the
Beauty and the Beast?
It's a Beauty and the Beast kind of weekend, is what I'm saying. There was Beauty, and there was Beast.
There are as many people who are so thrilled about their exciting victory into the playoffs as there are people just so angry at their close, heartbreaking defeats. It's always that way, right? Every time someone makes the playoffs, it pushes someone else out.
It is always, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, if you have a different perspective, always worse to lose when a guy underwhelms for you than when an opponent's player goes off.
Yeah, I would say that.
Because you are expecting a certain baseline for a guy, maybe a Drew Brees, and when they don't perform how the paper tells you they're going to perform, it is so disheartening. And we're going to share some bad beat stories today. We're going to share some good stories. I'm going to share a quick one from last night. This is what makes fantasy football great and horrible all at once. In fact, somebody sent the meme across to one of our leagues that just said, the only reason I'm watching this game right now is because of fantasy football. And that's true.
That game was terrible.
The game was terrible, but it didn't seem terrible to me because
it was super exciting.
We had a situation in one of our leagues where the bottom, so the last place person in our league, you've probably heard us tell you before, they get the punishment of being soaking wet on draft day. Okay? They have to spin the wheel of water for every...
I want to also emphasize this. If you've never been in Arizona in the summer, you think, oh, well, that sounds delightful. Here's the problem with Arizona in the summer. Everyone overcompensates inside with air conditioning.
It's freezing inside.
You're inside for the... Once you come inside, you're like, oh, that's delightful. It's so cold in here. About 5 minutes later, you want to bust out the jackets and the pants because it's freezing.
You're absolutely right. And one of the people that could get watered was my brother-in-law. But his odds of being watered, being last place, were improbably long. He had to have Matt Forte not score 10 points, and Andrew Luck had to score 40-plus against him. Only if Matt Forte scored 11, he was safe. If Luck scored 38, he was safe. The stars aligned in an inconceivable beauty. And my brother-in-law is going to be drafting soaking wet.
I thought for sure it was 3 different people last night. It was like, oh, this person's going to finish there. Oh, no, Andrew Luck has scored enough. This person's going to. When it landed on your brother-in-law, it just made me so happy.
It was. It was just a beautiful thing. So, funny, lots of stories from last night, lots of bad. Mike, you have your own. I mean, your bye week.
I lost the bye week by a yard.
Not just a yard.
Literally 1 yard.
0.1 points. So you could still be stat corrected.
Yeah. And I also watched T.Y. Hilton drop.
That's what I was going to bring up.
The T.Y. Hilton drop, as I put it up on Twitter, there was many who were with me in the same boat. So it's not just me on an island. I know there are many of the Foot Clan who are feeling the pain of that T.Y. drop.
There were also a lot of people who played a team that had Gronkowski and thought it was a benefit that Gronk was out against them, and those people picked up Dwayne Allen. But we're going to get into some of those here in lieu of a quick question. Otherwise, we've got the waiver wire on the show today. We've got news and notes. We have our streaming quarterbacks for the week 14 playoff matchups.
Playoffs?
Yeah. So lots going on. Jets are going to use Bryce Petty rest of the season. Hooray for no one. Unless your name is, Anderson. 16 targets or something like that, 12 targets.
Well, and
I think what it is just 100%. That's his target share.
And speaking of baseline, I mean, there's something that has to happen here. I'm talking to you, Andy. Moncrief.
Got in the end zone again, 5 straight games for Moncrief. Can't put up any yardage. Has no ability to
Who
put up
cares?
yardage.
He scores touchdowns.
26 yards and a touchdown. And the truth, we had some people ask us, Moncrief or Marshall? Who's got the better chance of the big game? We all said Marshall.
Well, the big game is Marshall because Moncrief does, like you just said, he doesn't put up, much more than about 50 yards and a touchdown.
He's a touchdown-dependent option right now. Marshall, I mean, look, it was all about Ryan Fitzpatrick. He was terrible. Ryan Fitzpatrick is the key that unlocks the chest that is Brandon Marshall for your fantasy playoffs, and it's been locked and thrown away. And now Bryce Petty's out there. And who knows? I mean, if you're New York, you want to see what you have in Robbie Anderson. You want to see what you have in Spiller and in Petty and Severian Jenkins. Like, that's what you want to see. You don't care about seeing what you have in Marshall.
Yeah, it's going to be a train wreck. Bryce Petty swallowed the key. He's like,
Yeah.
I swallowed it.
Yeah.
Can't
Well, on his third throw.
Yeah.
Into his mouth.
I'm just going to throw this out here. I won't be shocked if Brandon Marshall retires.
Huh. He's totally enamored with the...
I mean, he has a second career lined up. Just saying.
All right, we're going to go round robin through some of these bad beats here.
Oh, no.
All right, bad beats from week 13. We asked you guys to share some. Sometimes it's cathartic to share your pain. You need some people to understand what you're going through.
Yes.
Mitch Davis said he lost and missed the playoffs by 0.1 because of
the Hilton. See?
And Kaepernick. Kaepernick and the Hilton drop.
Mitch Davis. I'm with you, my friend.
All right.
All right. At Grimmer Brian. Is that
Yeah,
right?
you got it. You got
All right. At Grimmer Brian, up by 45 with Moncrief left to play. He only has Luck and Dwayne Allen. Easy win, right?
What? Oh, man. 6 touchdowns.
On the other end of
Between
all of
those
these,
two.
there's some rejoicing hooligan.
Yeah, exactly. Where he's like, I got no chance to win. I'm out of the playoffs.
This comes from the R Pig. I was up 20 points before last night's game with Gordon Moncrief to go. Luck Allen. Oh, this is much like the Jordan Reed, Kirk Cousins stories of last year.
All right, Devin Kazin says he lost to a 3-9 guy.
Oh, no.
Who didn't start a quarterback.
No.
And now has no playoffs. He only needed 0.4 more points from Forte
Oh, no.
in someone else's matchup to get in. Bryce Petty threw a screen pass
That one
to
hurts.
Forte that got tipped. It was like the Hilton play.
Oh, Devin, that hurts my soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is at Johnny Stromo 24. All he needed to do was win to make the playoffs. His entire team did not score a touchdown, including his wonderful quarterback, Colin Kaepernick.
I'm sorry.
That's brutal.
That is a brutal beat. All right, Mike, you got another one?
We got Jay Crozier. Traded future picks for Greg Olson and Jeremy Maclin when I was 5-2.
Oh.
Jason, is this you?
He also said hashtag tears are useless. Tears are useless unless they count for fantasy points.
Let's see what else we got here. We have, my guy Coby Fleener. This one benched Fleener for the first time this season. The first time. Finally did it. They started McDonald. Had he started Fleener, he would have won by half a point. Thankfully, that was just for the first round bye, so he's still in the play.
Now, look. Wow, we just
Our set is falling apart with the sadness. We got to get out of the sadness. We got to move to some positivity.
Yeah, I am
here.
going to read this one. This is a little bit, if you need some positivity here. There are people out there. I know a lot of you won, by the way, and congratulations on winning. Andrew Luck got me a win yesterday. That was an incredible performance. I was down 67 points in my matchup with Rawls and Luck left. That doesn't happen very often.
No, that's a loss.
So this one, Mark in New Jersey wrote in. He says, I want to thank the three of you for your insight during the podcast and YouTube videos. Listen to this. And this is why we say, keep listening. He was 2-6 and throwing in the towel. And then he heard our podcast talking about 2-6 not being the end of the year and always play the waiver wire. Ran the table, ended 7-6 with the 5 seed. He says no matter what happens in the first round, he's going to be thrilled with making the playoffs. He has a successful season, and he will continue to listen in the offseason.
Love those stories. And, hopefully now we can talk to the majority of our listeners here. Yeah. It talks of playoffs.
That's why you got to stack your team. You can't let one guy destroy you. You got to – and you know what else this proved to me, and I saw this in the battle for last place in our league. Week 3, the points you score. Week 5, the points you score. When the tiebreaker's total points scored at the end of the year, that makes a big difference in your seeding. It makes a big difference in your everything.
Punishments, if you have one.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the news.
News and notes from around the league.
All right, Mike, should we be worried about Julio Jones?
Speaking of good news, Julio Jones diagnosed with turf toe, but is expected to be okay for Week 14 against the Rams. However, it's possible he will be limited. We've seen Julio Jones with nicks and bruises and scrapes and cuts.
Have we ever seen Julio without those?
Yeah. A couple times.
Every once in a while, he's
about 40 points.
He's fully healthy.
But he only played 47 of 73 snaps last week.
I will say this. The last time we saw Julio Jones be limited and you thought, well, Julio Jones, get out there. He said, no, I'm going to take the rest of the season off. So for this to be turf toe, I'll deal with it. We'll live with it.
John Brown is going to remain on a 20-snap limit for the Cardinals.
Does
he have any dynasty value anymore?
Yeah, I think dynasty value he does. And the reason I say this is multifaceted. He's the type of guy that I put on my list of we need to remember why things happened this year for next year. Because if he's able to get the sickle cell trait under control, which he has not been able to do during the season, he is a great player. He was my guy coming into the year. You have Michael Floyd, who almost certainly will not be with the Cardinals next year. I think John Brown in a dynasty has value. Clearly, his value with the sickle cell trait completely obliviated. Is that right?
I think you nailed it.
I nailed it.
I think you actually
sick brain works
works.
this season. No good.
All right, Doug Peterson said Jordan Mathews and Ryan Mathews should return to practice this week.
So they're out.
You based on Doug Peterson?
Yeah, you jerk.
Don't confuse people. They're supposed to return to practice. No, I was talking to Doug. Dorial Green Beckham took a shot to the ribs, dealing with an oblique contusion.
Expected to play.
Yeah, that's his nickname, isn't it? The oblique contusion. Broncos placed Kapri Bibbs on IR and claimed Justin Forsett.
This is to me. This is mostly just okay. Here's a news blurb.
It's a Booker handcuff, isn't it?
It's at least worth paying attention to. Devontae Booker has not been
2.9 per carry over the last 5 games.
Yeah, he's been very inefficient since getting the starting job. Justin Forsett is back with Coobs.
Yeah, he was. He had his big success with. He knows the system. That's all it means.
Juwan Thompson will get snaps if Booker gets hurt. I mean, Thompson got him last week. I just don't think.
Justin Forsett wasn't on the team last week.
Sure, but this is new hotness, popularity. I'm not signing him. Is my point.
Okay.
Charles Sims will be activated from the IR. Has a chance to play in Week 14.
All right. He's likely now the handcuff for Doug Martin.
Packers will be RB by committee. I was listening to head coach McCarthy talk about Starks. It sounded like the kind of thing you say to a veteran to not embarrass him or demote him publicly, but kind of just said, he said something like, Starks is a veteran and we're going to continue to use packages.
I talked about on the show yesterday, I said, when you watch the game, you saw Starks just running laterally for what didn't seem like a good reason. The NFL, they have these next-gen stats where they're tracking all kinds of things for player movement. It came out that Starks, for every yard he gained, every positive yard, he accumulated about 54 yards running. So he ran 50 yards for every 1 yard he gained.
That's not good. That's not good efficiency.
That is very impressive. I think if your goal was to gain yards, if that was your goal, unless you're running backwards, that's hard to do. Congratulations.
I think
I
his
feel like
goal
that's
was
like-
his cardio.
That's like a Roomba. Going back and forth, making sure you
never getting the goal.
cover the whole area. The Roomba. Hugh Jackson says it's too soon to name a starting quarterback.
I'll go ahead and name him for you. It's going to be Robert Griffin III.
What do you do when you can't actually name somebody who is a starting quarterback?
It's week 14. It's too soon.
Yeah, that's not good. I want to throw this in there. Adrian Peterson, people are asking about him, and I guess we could have talked about him in waivers, but
Spoiler.
all right, we'll save him. How do you like that?
I love it. I don't like it.
All right, we'll save the news on Adrian Peterson. We'll talk about it shortly.
Put me in, coach.
All right, welcome to the waivers section. Let's start with Adrian Peterson.
I love it.
And the running backs. People want, I think, I don't mind if you sign Adrian Peterson. If he's on your waiver wire, he's about 45% owned. The reality is that the Vikings aren't likely to use him unless they are in the playoff hunt. Now, you could argue they're in the playoff hunt right now. They have about a 29% chance to make the playoffs, according to 538. I don't think you're going to see him back on the field in an effective capacity this year. He's a running back, so if you want to take a shot at him, it doesn't bother me.
I'm not taking a shot at him because while he is a running back and he's a starting running back and he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, before the injury, he was averaging 1.9 yards per game because the offensive line is terrible.
Carry.
Per carry. Because the offensive line is terrible, and you've seen it the whole season. Whoever's back there, that offensive line is not built for the running game right now.
It's just hard to see.
It's not built for NFL play.
Sure, Arena League. Do you see the Bucs are working out the Arena League Offensive Player of the Year? 6'4" wide receiver.
Kurt Warner?
No.
Oh.
That was a while back.
Not the Barnstormers?
No, not the Barnstormers. So that's the news on AP. But, yeah, it is hard to see the stars align where the offensive line plus him coming back from injury plus the playoff situation means something good. But, it is fantasy football. So if you want to take a shot at it and you don't have any other options, deeper league, that's cool. So let's talk other running back situations here. Now, Jerick McKinnon has been better.
Yeah. I think he had a good game. He finally scored. Believe it was his first score.
Not
since
too
around
excited
week 4.
is what you sound like.
Well, the waiver wire is very thin. Besides the handcuffs, which we'll get into these handcuffs here, but for a guy who you can pick up and have an immediate impact, I would probably pick up Charles Sims over Jerick McKinnon and hope for standalone value.
Yeah, I am with you on that.
I feel the exact
I don't feel
same.
excited about either, though.
Or even Gillisley. He's just a handcuff, but he's the touchdown guy.
Well, and McCoy goes down in a heap of pain every game.
I'm just trying to compare these handcuffs to Jerick McKinnon, who's
another
starting running back.
handcuff that I would rather have than Jerick McKinnon because he might outscore him as a backup, similar to what you're saying, is Derrick Henry. We can't forget that going into the bye, they talked about getting him more involved. They had their bye
goal
week.
line.
It is possible that coming out, after the bye, that we start to see more Derrick Henry. Now, I'm not going to throw him in as a starter this week before I see it, but I certainly want him on my roster.
He also plays Denver.
Well, Denver's running
Denver
defense has not been the best.
All right. Any other handcuffs to mention in the?
Well, it's DeAngelo Williams. He should be back. Alfred Morris is embarrassingly low owned. Derrick Henry, Mike Gillisley, Charles Sims, Kenneth Farrow, if you are the Melvin Gordon owner.
Yeah, at this point you need to grab him.
Rex Burkhead, if you are the Jeremy Hill owner. Jeremy Hill's been extremely inefficient.
Oh,
Rex Burkhead's snaps are going up.
You know what a nice solution for Jeremy Hill was last time he was really inefficient?
What was that?
Cleveland.
That's true.
He plays Cleveland this week. He might be in my starts of the week.
His inefficiencies are very directly related to his ankle injury. If you look at him, he's just gimping around.
I think Burkhead would do a lot if Hill was out.
Very possible.
In the passing game.
But I want to emphasize, you need your handcuffs. You have to have them. I have had several situations where I go into the playoffs and you have your backup because you watch your starter go down. You have guaranteed points. If you have the backup, you have a guy you can plug in. You're not scrounging the waiver wire going, wow, I sure hope Matt Asiata scores a touchdown. No, you have a guy who will touch the ball 10 to 15 times. And those are not just readily available on the
I
waiver
wa-
wire at this time.
I won the championship last year on the back of Mark Ingram going down to injury because I had Tim Hightower, and he went full ham and got me a victory. So your handcuff's extremely important in the playoffs.
All right, before we move on to the rest of the waiver wire guys we want to discuss on today's show, I do want to thank today's sponsor, great friends of the show. Actually having lunch with these guys today.
Oh.
Pristine Auction. PristineAuction.com. We love them. We've got our new studio space that we are working on getting right, getting it tight, making it look nice.
Ready for the fight?
Oh, and what is better than giving the gift of autographed sports memorabilia to a sports fan for Christmas? I mean, I honestly don't know what would be – if I got a framed jersey of my favorite player, a Larry Fitz,
You're not going to beat that.
That's just amazing. And the prices at Pristine Auction, we get tweets every single day from people who say, I just got my signed Rob Gronkowski jersey. I just bought my friend a signed Dak Prescott jersey. And the prices are not unreasonable. I know Jason just showed his dad some of the jerseys we had, and he reacted with like, oh, how much do these cost? Not that bad.
No,
Go check it out.
They're great. I'm currently looking for the signed Rob Gronkowski hospital robe. I haven't seen it on there yet.
Yes, yeah, we're going to get that in there. The bedpan, the signed bedpan.
Used. Authentically used.
Authentically used. So check them out, pristineauction.com. You've heard us talk about them, but we have to keep talking about them because they're so great and good people. So hundreds of daily auctions. Check them out, pristineauction.com.
Make a free account.
Make a free account. Let them know that the footballer sent you.
And we want to thank Omaha Steaks. Omaha Steaks are the perfect gift right time as well. It's the Christmas season. You want to give your friends something. You want to give your spouse something. Look, Omaha Steaks, they have over 500 gourmet gift ideas, providing the highest quality cuts and ingredients.
I want my spouse to give me something.
Steak right to your door. Right to your door. You open it up and say, well, there's a box of delicious steak.
You just did this. You just got your package recently.
Absolutely, and I've been grilling like a villain.
Yeah.
Out there, outside, because we can go outside and grill in Arizona. Vacuum sealed, comes right to you. Right now, Omaha Steaks is giving an exclusive savings to the Foot Clan. Listen to everything you can get for less than $50.
Oh, can you do it?
2 filet mignons, 2 top sirloins, 2 boneless pork chops, 4 boneless chicken breasts, 4 kielbasa sausages, 4 burgers, 12-ounce package of all beef meatballs, 4 potatoes au gratin, 4 caramel apple tartlets, 1 Omaha Steak seasoning packet, plus 4 additional kielbasa sausages for free. I almost died just now.
Yeah.
Giving you everything that you're going to get for less than $50. Now, we've had a lot of people tweeting at us saying, how do we get this? Because the code's a little bit different for this show. We need you to go to omahasteaks.com. You enter our code FANTASY in the search bar. It's FANTASY. And add the family gift pack to your cart, and you're going to save 77%.
When you type that word in there, a little drop down will come down. It'll say the radio deal for the fantasy footballers. So just grab it.
Yep.
It's good stuff, and it's great for the holidays. Had a lot of people tweet about it. So back into the waiver wire. We're talking wide receivers. Before we do that, I do want to remind people, all these names, lots of great articles, playoff prep, all on thefantasyfootballers.com. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at the FFBallers. We're going to share all the breaking news every single week on Join the Foot. We have game day alerts, so you know what's going on right before the week. If you learned anything from the beginning of the show, it's that 0.1 points matters. Could be the difference between bitter disappointment and incredible euphoria. So every little bit matters, especially right now. So pay attention to that and follow us on Twitter. Wide receivers to pick up. Mike, yesterday you told me second week in a row. Malcolm Mitchell.
Yes.
He's your rising star of the week. He's only owned in 20% of leagues in ESPN, 29% in Yahoo.
Love it. 10 targets. And we're talking 10 Tom Brady targets. Those
are upgrade targets.
These are not Blake Bortles targets.
No.
These are Hall of Fame caliber targets, and he ended up with 8 for 82.
What is the exchange rate
of a
Brady
Bortles
target to Bortles targets? Is it like 8-1?
Oh, it's
7-1.
It's there's an
least.
economic depression there for Blake Bortles. The schedule is not the best for Malcolm Mitchell. Baltimore, Denver, the Jets. Well, the Jets is fabulous at this point, but it's the Patriots. It's Tom Brady. Malcolm Mitchell is emerging as a primary pass catcher for the team. No Gronk. Danny Amendola dealing with an ankle injury. I like Malcolm Mitchell as my top wide receiver pickup of the week.
That's what I was going to put you on the spot with. So you like him over a guy like Brandon LaFell who had a big week?
Yes.
over a guy like Gabriel, who even though he had a down week, he was on fire before that?
Yeah, I'd say the only guy who maybe slightly tempts me, and I say slightly that Mitchell's still the overwhelming favorite, is Tyler Lockett. Finally looks healthy, looks like the dynamic playmaker that I wanted to draft, that I did draft everywhere.
He looks fast.
Yeah, and he has great hands. Russell Wilson is healthy. He's able to scramble out of the pocket. He's able to hit Tyler Lockett deep. And 5 for 63. He had a 75-yard rush. A 75-yard rush because the Rawls Royce needed a tune-up in the back.
Tyler Lockett's great, and I think you just alluded to the main health is why he is valuable right now, and it's not just his, it's also Russell Wilson.
Yes.
Because the type of player he is, he's a burner, he's a speed guy. So when Russell Wilson has that broken play and he has to scramble out of the pocket and do that little patented turnaround spin move and direct traffic and tell Tyler Lockett, go long. Tyler Lockett can grab that. I definitely think Tyler Lockett would be on my list of guys to grab. Andy just talked about Taylor Gabriel.
Yeah.
I think he is still worth
well, to me, he's worth the pickup. You have Julio dealing with the toe, and Mohamed Sanu also got banged up in that game. We don't have an update on his status yet, but Taylor Gabriel could see an increase of snaps, and he's that big play guy where it just takes one. And he even had several almost situations last week, only ended up with 5 for 44. LaFell and Boyd.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's talk about Dalton's targets here.
They're interesting, especially because they get Cleveland this week, and you get Pittsburgh the following week. So you have two decent matchups here. Brandon LaFell was the guy with the big game, 5 for 95 with a huge down.
It's not like Boyd had a bad game.
No,
he had 4 for 66.
But this is what I had talked about, where I think LaFell's the big play guy,
right,
and Boyd is the possession PPR guy.
Now is Hayden playing for the Browns?
It doesn't. He's been so bad.
So
you hope.
Who do you want this week is my point, because usually you'd have against the Browns, you're going to be able to exploit them for the big play potential. So that would be Brandon LaFell usually.
Yeah, I prefer Brandon LaFell because I want the big play. I mean that's how I go.
Sure. Other guys. Here's a sneaky snart. I'll throw one out that's very deep. He's certainly available. If everybody we're talking about is not available. Now, granted, this is playoffs, and you probably have a better roster than these caliber of guys, but Russell Shepard is interesting to me. We've seen he's the Tampa Bay wide receiver that originally stepped up when Mensa Jackson went down, and he looked pretty good. And he got injured. He didn't have a big game last week, but he's back now. He's healthy. You're going up against the New Orleans Saints, and Adam Humphries,
pronounced with an Humphries.
Thank you, is currently in the concussion protocol. So if Adam Humphries is out, and you're playing against
Cecil Shorts, man, did you hear what happened to him?
No, what was the
dislocated knee, torn ACL, MCL, PCL.
What?
Yeah.
Did he get hit by a truck?
He's done.
That's so sad.
That is no good.
I mean,
but I think. If you want a 1 week spot start, and you don't have other options, Russell Shepard could, in that situation with no Cecil Shorts, no Adam Humphries, up against New Orleans, he could have a decent game.
And the last one I'll throw out, Adam Thielen.
Yeah.
Adam Thielen's been pretty solid.
He's been that's the best possible word you could use for him.
Pretty solid.
He's just like a solid guy.
He's a water. We're almost there. We've almost turned into ice.
Yeah.
Almost formed that solid, but we're not quite there yet.
He doesn't really give you...
He's like a melty ice cream cone.
You've lost me. All right, tight ends. Tight ends. My number one waiver wire pickup this week is Ladarius Green.
I am
across the board.
I'm on board with this.
Not mine.
Okay, that's fine. I'm going to ask you yours, but I'm going to talk about Ladarius Green
first.
Is
it not even your top tight end?
Right, that's the only thing I was saying. He's not my top tight end,
okay.
but Green
He's my top overall
Yeah.
waiver pickup. And it may seem, you had a monster game, obviously, 6 for 110 and 1. I thought Mike on yesterday's show made a great point. Look, they need him to be what they paid for. They don't have Sammy Coates. They don't have Marcus Wheaton. They don't have the Heath Miller of old, and Jesse James doesn't play that role. This guy was brought in to be the secondary pass catcher for this team and a goal line type of weapon for them, and he looked the part.
They
6 for 110 and 1.
So they signed him. I don't know if people recall this during the offseason, the progression. They signed him right before the Martavis Bryant news was announced. So
they knew.
They knew it was coming. It was already done in-house, and they said, oh, crap, we got to make a move. And they paid Green right away.
The one thing I love about Green, and please, while he might not be my number one pickup this week at tight end, I love Green. He is 1B for me. And the thing that I love the most is that he goes downfield more than you see. Normally those tight end routes, they leak out.
Well, it just depends who you are, but he has the ability.
He has the ability, but we've seen it in back-to-back games where you're talking about, 30-yard the ball traveling in the air, and to a tight end that's great who has the ability to catch that. We've seen huge games from Ladarius Green in the past when he was in San Diego. Has the talent. If he's healthy and he's in that role, I agree with you guys that he could warrant the number one pickup. I don't have any problem with that. The guy I like slightly more, and it's only because of what's happened already this year, and it blows my mind that he's still available in half of leagues, Cameron Brate. Look, I know we talk about him every week. I said last week I was kind of sick of talking about him.
Well, to be fair, you said you were tired of talking about Adam Brate.
That is true. Thank you for being fair to me. Cameron Brate right now, and this might surprise people, he's the number 6 tight end.
I think it's hard to call I'm with you, but Brate is 73% owned in Yahoo and 51% owned in ESPN. Green just seems like that unowned masterpiece.
He's completely available.
But you're right. Cameron Brate has New Orleans, Dallas, New Orleans on the rest of the schedule.
That's the reason. I like Green's talent better. I like Green's offense better. So Green is fine. The reason that I'm playing playoffs 1 week matchup.
No, you should.
And I think Cameron Brate against New Orleans. I just talked about the fact that Adam Humphries is gone. Cecil Shorts is gone. I think Brate's going to need to be used. I think there's going to be points on the clock.
Well, then push comes to shove, then you're starting Brate over Green this week.
Yes,
because that's the only way that would make sense, right? Because
that is exactly right.
Now
happy to start both guys though.
That's what you have to be doing right now. And I had to step out for a second, but what I was going to ask you about wide receivers was, is the tiebreaker for some of these guys just this week's matchup? It has to be, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Because there's nobody that's, going to overwhelm over 3 weeks. These are not names that will do that. Ladarius Green, Cameron Brate, if they're available, they could win you a championship.
Yeah. Ladarius Green, certainly.
Fleener. Coby Fleener is owned in 65% of leagues, but he might have sneaked onto your waiver wire, and Josh Hill suffered a broken fibula. He's another streaming tight end option. CJ Fedorowicz, we've been talking about him. Look, he didn't have a monster week, but he did exactly what we said he'd do. 6 catches. Led the team in targets and catches, 44 yards, solid, right? You don't get goosed by CJ Fedorowicz. It's not going to happen.
No butt pinches.
No, no butt pinches.
There's going to be a lot of people out there as they plan their next week, their tight end pickup. They're going to want to know if a lot of the tight ends are gone. A guy like CJ Fedorowicz might be there, and Dwayne Allen might be there. And they're going to have that question of, do I want the targets that have been coming consistently from CJ Fedorowicz?
Yep.
He's been getting the receptions.
Or the upside.
Or the upside from, I just saw last night, Dwayne Allen scored 3 touchdowns against a team that did not show up to play football.
He was one of them was an amazing catch. The other 2 was, Jason, you could have been out there. You could have done it. You could have. You could have been a pro.
There wasn't anybody within 5 yards of him, and I think one of those times he did like a little hop, skip, and a jump into the end zone.
Yeah, yep.
I want to talk about Jermaine Gresham.
You do?
I do.
Nobody said that for years.
I know. Well, and we kind of talked about him last week in the waiver show, of that things were trending in an upward situation for Jermaine Gresham, but it was just there was so much historical data on tight ends in the Bruce Arians system on Jermaine Gresham since he's been with the Cardinals of not being involved. However, you have the whole John Brown situation. You have Michael Floyd not performing. They have to throw the ball to someone, and Jermaine Gresham the last 3 to 4 weeks has been a very usable fantasy tight end.
On a 1 week, looking at this week, we got to decide, will we start him over other guys? Now, I will say this. He plays the Dolphins, who are 25th against the tight end this week.
Yeah,
they
throw out
just
some
gave
names.
up. They just gave up 2 touchdowns and a bunch of yards to Dennis
The
Pitta.
answer for me is yes. There's a lot of
Okay,
guys
so
outplaying
C.J.
him over.
Fedorowicz or Dennis Pitta this week.
Or Dennis Pitta?
Or I'm sorry, C.J. or Jermaine Gresham.
Tricky guy. I would play Fedorowicz.
Jermaine Gresham or eat a banana?
Jermaine Gresham.
All right.
I don't-
So Gresham or Fedorowicz?
I go Fedorowicz.
And
that's a pretty easy one for me.
I don't. It's not easy for me. I lean Fedorowicz, but I mean
Jermaine Gresham
close.
or Dwayne Allen.
I'd go.
I'm gonna go with Gresham.
I think I'd go Gresham.
And last one I'll give you. Okay, I'm going to go back to Gresham or Pitta.
I'd play Pitta.
I think I'd play Gresham.
I think I would play Gresham.
Here was the
there.
one thing about Gresham that is kind of, everybody remembers he had a fantasy time in the sun, so to speak, or at least as a relevant player with Cincinnati. When he came to Arizona, the one thing that was mesmerizing to me is his age. He was only 27 years old when he came to Arizona.
I felt
He's
like he was 35.
He's 28 right now. Yeah, 'cause he's got some Greg Oden in him. He looks older than he is, but he's a solid player. He truck sticked Josh Norman this past week. He's making big first downs for the Cardinals, so he needs to be on the radar. Deeper leagues to me. I would still play all these other guys, maybe other than Dwayne Allen, because I think Dwayne Allen people are going to chase Dwayne Allen and Pitta this week when I think they should probably be starting Fedorowicz, Fleener, Brayton Green.
Yeah.
Because Pitta's going to get, if he's available, he's going to get signed and played this week.
Since the run, so since week 10, Jermaine Gresham is a tight end 1. He's the 10th tight end. So just
What was his top game?
I can pull that.
Or I guess how many touchdowns?
Yeah.
2. There's 2 in the last 4 games. So you're talking.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good run.
He's trending up. So
All right.
This isn't to be ignored. I'll say that.
As important as anything else, defensive streaming starts this week for your team heading into the playoffs or continuing in the playoffs. The Bengals take on Cleveland this week.
Yes, please.
Who Hugh Jackson is yet to name a starting quarterback for. So they may be playing no quarterback. Who really knows? Bengals are great. Bengals are awesome. The Bills,
I put these guys.
they've
in
got
here.
Cleveland next week.
Yeah, I put these teams are in here not for this week. Bengals is the chalk play. Bengals is all of my efforts are going towards the Bengals, but I put in a reminder for people: Bengals, Bills, Chargers. These defenses are available. This is not these guys are owned in 80% of leagues. We're talking in generally more than 40%.
I'll give you a defense that
Let's say they all play the Browns the next 3 weeks.
Yes, that's nice. I'll give you a defense that is you
I'm gonna
talked
see
about
if
it
I
yesterday.
say the same one.
You talked about it yesterday, Mike. You said we got to stop calling them a bad
The
defense.
Lions.
The Lions.
Yeah.
Because they're not a bad defense, and if you look at the last 3 points in our scoring format, 20 points, 5 and 9 points, which is really good for a defense. This week they're up against Chicago
All you have
with
to
Matt Barkley.
They've given up less than 20 points 4 consecutive weeks. Now, Minnesota was 2 of those weeks. You can say, okay, it's Minnesota.
But okay, it's Chicago.
And New Orleans, it was New Orleans last week
Yeah.
with 3 interceptions. And now you've got Chicago and Matt Barkley Express and Josh Bellamy's Droposaurus Rex. I mean, that's a great call, Jay.
Okay, so here's a scarier one. Okay? Do you play the hapless, lifeless, not showing up New York Jets, who
No.
have the ability,
Wait,
but
okay.
they are against San Francisco?
No.
No.
You're staying clear.
I'm
I
sorry.
agree.
I'm staying as far away.
You can't. I agree because
I don't
even
care
though
if
the
Colin
upside,
Kaepernick's sister's playing in that game. I'm not playing.
The upside is certainly there, right? I mean, they're the type of team that could just get decimated. Have a
Francisco?
couple. San Francisco, yes, but the downside is there for a big negative game.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I mean,
the
Kaepernick
Jets-
2 weeks ago scored 43
The
points.
Jets just aren't playing. They're just
No.
lifeless.
All right. Let's talk quarterbacks.
Full stream ahead.
All right, streaming quarterbacks, guys owned in generally about 60% or less of leagues. Did I say that right?
Correct.
Sounded strange.
That was right.
So what are the options that we have this week?
Well, I'll start us off. Mine's the most readily available guy, Carson Wentz. I'm going to
You're gonna roll him out. You're gonna roll out the rookie.
look. I'm putting on my garlic necklace. I'm carrying my bottle of holy water,
Uh huh.
and I'm traveling to Carson, Pennsylvania,
Uh-huh.
because he's at home and he's taking on Washington.
Apparently some sort of vampire as well.
Transylvania?
Oh, yeah.
Do you not know?
Yeah, I guess I totally did not catch that.
I got it. The
All right.
Pennsylvania.
All right. So this is a team, the Washington team. They allowed 300 yards and 2 touchdowns to Samuel Biscuits. Sammy Biscuits put up 302 against them a couple weeks ago. 300 yards last week to Palmer. Over the last month, Washington has been very, very beatable. And you got Jordan Mathews should be back. Ryan Mathews, for whatever little play he gets, he still helps the team. I think Carson Wentz is, if you're digging at the bottom of ownership percentages, I think he's a solid play.
Here's push comes to shove time, right? You've got different quarterbacks that have been signed for the playoffs, maybe that you want 2, right? You want to stream a guy so Wentz is in there. Do you play Wentz this week in that matchup? You play Rivers against Carolina.
Oh, I'll play Rivers.
Dude,
Yeah.
Rivers is
He's
going to have a great
in
week.
Carolina. Okay, how about do you play that Wentz matchup, or do you play Eli Manning against Dallas?
I'll play Wentz.
Okay.
I'm not going to trust Eli in a division game when this is on the line. Eli has been
Wentz
oof.
or Alex Smith against Oakland?
For the record, I would play Eli.
Okay. All right.
Oakland at home.
Who was this name you threw out?
Alex Smith. It depends on what my team needs. I'll say that. If you
If
feel
your
like
team needs 14 points, Alex Smith's your guy.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, if you need that safe just floor, then I would go with Alex Smith.
My streaming quarterback option of the week was the number 5 overall quarterback last week, surprisingly, in a dominating performance against Philadelphia. Andy Dalton with 333 and 2 last week. It really impressed me. I did not expect the game to go the way it did. Now you go into Cleveland. I could stop talking. I could stop talking there, but if you want to remember, last time he played Cleveland, he was 308 with 2 touchdowns. Look, the baseline seems great for Andy Dalton to me in this matchup. Maybe he doesn't go 330 and 3, but I think he's going to give you over 250 and 2, and I think that's going to make him awfully safe for this matchup. I really like him. He's about 59% owned.
Here's what I love about Andy Dalton right now for that pick. In fact, I went to make him my pick, and you're like, oh, sorry, I already had him.
Yeah.
Jeremy Hill, as Mike alluded to earlier, does not look completely healthy. Now, Jeremy Hill feasted on the Browns last time, but if his ankle is really bothering him and he's not able to just do that feasting, I think we're all in agreement.
I hate when my ankle hurts and I can't feast.
When I can't do the feasting?
I think we're all in agreement that the Bengals are going to put up points against the Browns.
What was the word you used earlier? Eradicate?
Obliviate.
Obliviate the Browns.
Yes.
Eviscerate.
They're going to score enough points. And if Jeremy Hill can't get it done on the ground and Gio isn't there, it has to be Dalton. And even without A.J. Green against the Browns, I like that. My stream of the week this week is I'm going to throw out Jameis Winston. I realize he's owned in more leagues, but we've talked about him for the last month.
It's a reminder.
He is a reminder. Hopefully you already grabbed him in preparation for this New Orleans game.
Hopefully you're part of
but
that 70%.
But he is still available in 30% of leagues, so we have to say it because truth be told, all these other options, I'm going to start Winston. That's the guy I'm going to start. However, I assume if you need a pickup still, I'm going to assume he's taken, and I'm going to go deep in the well, and I'm going to go with Trevor Siemian. Trevor Siemian, we saw that Paxton Lynch is not ready. He is not ready to lead that team. Denver now is in a position where they need wins. They need Trevor Siemian to come back. They need him to be good. And if you look at the last 3 weeks before he missed this past game, he had over 250 yards in all 3 of them. One of those was 368 and 3 touchdowns. He had multi-touchdowns in all 3 of them. And those, were one of those 368 and 3 was against Kansas City Chiefs. What? I mean, that he's been okay is my point. This week he's playing against the Tennessee Titans, and the Tennessee Titans, I mean, they had a decent defense at the beginning of the year. It scares me a little that they're coming off of bye, but their last, I mean, they give up here. Let me just read back their previous few games. Points given up to the quarterback position: 28, 25, 35, 25, 39, 37. You put all those
sounds
things
pretty safe to me.
Yeah, you put those things together, and I think that Trevor Siemian is, if you got to go deep in the well, he's going to be okay.
All right, we're going to get into the mailbag for a few questions here before we end the show.
Mailbag.
You got a question for the show? Go to the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. Click the questions button, or you can submit a voicemail question.
I have a quick question.
302-464-TFFB.
How do with my loss by 0.1, how do I make the hurt go away?
It's not possible. But I recommend a mechanism to help. It's called the #HateDrop.
Oh, yes, we did recommend this.
And if you have Colin Kaepernick on your team and you wake up this morning, you need to make a little bit of that pain go away, click that drop button.
What if I have no one to blame?
Drop him right under the
but
waiver wire.
myself.
Yeah, and if you're out of the playoffs, what I would recommend doing is something more humiliating. Drop Kaepernick, but don't just drop him. Pick up Tim Tebow.
Over Kaepernick, you're saying?
Yeah, you've been replaced, Cap.
Yeah, I don't
That'll
know.
teach him.
That'll teach him. All right, we're going to start in the mailbag with a voicemail question. Here we go. Maybe. Let's see. Here we go.
Hey, guys. It's Brian from Seattle. Thanks for everything all season. You are the best. The first question, quickly, since you touched on it a little bit yesterday, but just like Jason, I gave up a ton in a trade for Greg Olsen like 5 weeks ago, and he's fully transformed into a bona fide weekly barf. And I guess I'm hoping I get Ladarius Green. So if I do, should I straight up drop Olsen going into the playoffs? I mean, it's almost, I feel like I'd be setting a trap for my opponent. Irresistibly barfy. So I don't know, guys. Can I drop him?
Wow.
And secondly, what the heck is wrong with the Buffalo defense? Because I have Denver, but I'm too scared to play them against New England in Week 15 for my playoffs. So I picked up Buffalo because they have Cleveland, but can I even start them against the Browns? So, yeah, you just let me know. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Wow. First of all, great
questions.
Great questions, great insight, and
I almost asked the Olsen Green question in our tight end segment, so I want to answer that.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I can tell you firsthand, I've got a lot of experience with this. So, what are your guys' thoughts?
Well, first, I'd play Buffalo over Denver.
Yes, Cleveland does not have the offensive firepower that the Oakland Raiders do. I mean, the Buffalo was able to shut them down for a half, but then you saw a playoff team emerge.
Yes.
The Cleveland Browns cannot do that.
No, and the risk is too high with Denver and New England, I feel like.
Yep. So I'm good.
In terms of the Green Olsen situation, I'm playing Ladarius Green.
Definitely starting Green over Olsen.
You say you might set a trap for your opponent. You also might set a trap for your future mental health. Because if you do drop Olsen, like Jason once dropped Joique Bell, and I signed Joique Bell and played him against him in the first round of the playoffs and knocked him out because of Joique Bell.
It was the worst.
How long did you have to go to counseling for that?
12 years.
12 years. 12 years. 12 years.
Yeah, so I would not recommend dropping Greg Olsen, but I understand why. After Carolina's bye, which was in Week 7, from Week 8 through Week 13, Greg Olsen, the mighty one, who was so great Weeks 1 through 7, is your tight end number 19. In that time period, since Week 8, he is tight end 19. You know who's one spot behind him? Ladarius Green, who did not play most of those games. However, what is incredible and mind-blowing is that on the season, despite the fact that since Week 8, Greg Olsen has been the 19th best, I guess you can kind of say, tight end, he is still the number one tight end in fantasy football on the season. That's how dominating he was for those first 7 games. I don't think
deceiving is the word you meant. Yeah. That's how deeply deceiving and dominating.
So I don't think you can drop him because if he comes out and is back, you want that option on your team.
All right, Adam in Lafayette, Louisiana. He's in a full-point PPR league, has to decide between Allen Robinson at home against Minnesota or staying in the flames with Malcolm Mitchell at home against Baltimore. He left the Rawls Royce parked in his garage this week like an idiot, as he said. His words, not mine. But he still managed to get into the playoffs thanks to you guys. I download the show daily. Keep them coming. So, Allen Robinson at home, Malcolm Mitchell at home.
That's really tough. The Baltimore secondary is strong. I like Malcolm Mitchell.
It's a quarterback decision for me.
Yeah.
Because both defenses are good. Minnesota needs a win bad.
Yep.
Baltimore needs I just think I would go with Malcolm Mitchell.
I would certainly go with Malcolm Mitchell. The question of whether Brandon Marshall or Allen Robinson are droppable for him, the answer is yes. You got to. Oh, am I on a different question?
You sure are.
Oh, well, there's another question. Let me read it because this also factors in. We'll just play them both.
This is from Michael in Phoenix.
That's right. Is Brandon Marshall or Allen Robinson droppable for Malcolm Mitchell? And for me, you got to win this week. Brandon Marshall, you can't start him this week. There's just almost no situation where you can start Brandon Marshall with Bryce Petty. I mean,
My mom is bad.
do you?
I don't know what just happened.
That was interesting. I mean, would you guys start Brandon Marshall this week?
No. And I wouldn't start Allen Robinson. And Allen Robinson also has Minnesota, then Houston the next week.
So which one do you drop for Malcolm Mitchell if you needed to? Or do you not? Andy, you haven't weighed in.
I would
Andy's heart is
probably
heavy.
Probably Marshall.
It's just really hard to say these names out loud. If you just showed me stat lines and told me to point at the one or situations, it's just really, really tough for me to say. I'm going to go with Marshall because at least Bortles and Robinson are going to stay paired together for the rest of the year. Marshall's just, I mean, there's no reason for them to do anything with him.
And it stinks because there's a good matchup for the Jets
San Francisco,
this week.
Yeah.
It's really tough.
I don't know.
I think I would, man. That's brutal.
I'm going to, I'll just play Mitchell and I'll drop Marshall.
I will say this. Because of this week, I would drop Allen Robinson. I would play Brandon Marshall over Allen Robinson this week because the chance at Bryce Petty, you saw him throw a bunch of deep balls. If he gets one against San Francisco.
You've swayed me.
All right, that does it for today's show. Thanks for tuning in, listening. Check us out at jointhefoot.com and on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com. If you want to follow Mike, you can do so.
At FF
You
Hitman.
can follow Jason.
At Jason FFL.
You can follow me at Andy Holloway. And we'll be tweeting lots of good news and information, breaking down all of this week's matchups on the show all week long, as we always do. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for leaving reviews on iTunes and supporting the show in all the ways that you do, including just listening to us.
And also get your trophies from fantasyjocks.com with the promo code FOOTBALLERS.
We also had a big giveaway at jointhefoot.com today.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter at the FF Ballers.